Janine, can you hear us?
I can. You are like sideways to me. And I don't know what. Am I the right way? Am I the right way for you? Is the important
You are not.
bit.
You are sideways. There we go.
Welcome to Dead Headspace. I'm your host, Patrick R. McDonough, joined always by my co-host, Brennan LaFaro. Say hi, Brennan.
Hello, everybody.
Today, we are talking with a returning guest. First came on episode 110 when we had Glenn Rolfe on. Second came on for the second annual Halloween special. It's episode 122. And now we have her finally on her own episode, Miss Janine Pipe. Say hi, Janine.
Hi.
Now, I have to throw out there, you are I don't know what the best word is, but a foreign Bostonian. I don't know if that's the right title or whatever, but yeah, you are one of us, and we freaking love that. You always have a socks hat on. That's great. Brendan was saying before we started recording that you are getting busier and busier with every time you come on. So, Brendan, I'm actually going to randomly throw it to you and say, you ask the first question. I'd like to know what you come up with.
Sure. So actually, we have a stock in case you forgot, but we'll go there anyway. Janine, the first time you came on, we wanted to talk about what got you into horror, but I didn't realize until Patrick said it that your two appearances on here, because even though you were here guest hosting for Glenn, we did talk a little bit about you as well, that your appearances were only 12 episodes apart. And now it's been a little while. So what have you been up to in the interim? Excluding, of course, this, because we're going to talk a whole lot more in depth about this book, Sausages.
With personal writing, really, Sausages has been the big thing that I've been working on for the last 6 months or so. And then because obviously I do editorial stuff as well. So in the interim, we released Slasher through Candisha Press, which is 21 slasher inspired stories, all by women of horror. And I have got the Clash coming of age anthology Nowhere Fast is still open. So sort of checking in with that. We've got some amazing stories already, and I can already tell it's going to be absolute hell to try and pick just a few for that, because it's just the caliber of work coming in is just phenomenal. What else have I been up to? Really just focusing a lot on movie things at the moment, whether that be sort of watching them for reviews like screeners and things, or just getting involved more in that kind of side of stuff. So I haven't really got anything else that I can necessarily talk about, because there's so many things going on behind the scenes as usual, but let's just say I'm always busy as ever.
A rolling Janine gathers no moss. And you know what? I kind of took that into consideration, the whole idea that we certainly want to ask you, hey, what do you have coming up? But the fact is, in comparison to even your first appearance, you're not just doing a lot of stuff, you're doing a lot of big stuff, which means that when you come on here, you're not always going to be able to talk about it. But what I would love to hear is, how is that feeling? The fact that you've just got this like library of secrets hanging out up there.
It's both awesome and really hard, because I want to talk about it, I want to celebrate it. I want to be like, guess what I'm doing? But luckily I have learned to, keep zip, because the kind of the really big thing that's going on has already hit its first kind of its first stop sign, basically, where other people being involved in stuff and whatnot means that it's come to a standstill for now. It's still going to go ahead, but we've come to a halt before it can be greenlit properly. And that does seem to be something that's often the case, especially in the more of the movie world and that kind of thing. So I've learned very early that there's a reason why you don't talk about these things and whatnot, because it can take a long time to actually, from that idea and first pitching and talking to people, and then all the other people that become involved and whatnot, sometimes it gets halted at that stage until something else can be done. And if you've kind of let slip about it, then it's not necessarily a good thing. And things change so much as well. There's something else I've learned about, especially kind of like with movies and things, is that there's a reason why directors don't release who their big cast members are to start with, because a lot of the time that changes and people drop out for different reasons and stuff. So yeah, it's wonderful to have all these things kind of bubbling, but it's also kind of almost in that limbo at the moment, where I know that at any point someone could say, bam, right, we need to start this, we're now in pre-production for what, whatever. And when there's several things just there, you don't know what's going to come first. And sod's law will be that I'll have about 3 phone calls and everything will come at once.
I'm waiting for that day when you say, well, I got a movie coming out and Sean Pertwee's a star. That seriously has to happen. I just want to say that your love for sausages, it shines through so much on every page. And talking about your success, it might sound like I'm kissing your ass because you're a guest, but like I've known you for like 2, maybe 3 years now. Your friendliness, your love, and just like general kindness to show care, even if you can't help because you're too busy, you genuinely show kindness. That is inspirational, I know, for Brennan and I, and I'm sure for a lot of other people too. So I just had to throw that out there, that people that haven't read maybe Tainted Twisted Tales 2, I think it would be a really good time to read that before your bibliography pulls up. All right, so joining us now is Mark Allen Miller.
Look at I wore a hat just because
so you'd fit in.
Yeah, no, it was exactly because I wanted to fit in. So
it's not a Red Sox hat, though, is it?
It's not a Reds. I think it is logo free. I think we're gonna have to blur you out.
Yeah.
You can just Photoshop a bee onto it. It'll be fine. Nobody will notice.
Absolutely. Yeah. First time Janine and I have been on a live thing together.
Really?
Lots of emails, lots of WhatsApping.
Yeah.
But here we are talking in real time.
That's awesome.
I know.
That's spectacular. Oh, that's really cool. Mark, why don't you give us a quick introduction as to who you are, sir?
Hello. I'm Mark Allen Miller. I've written books and comic books and produced films and produced, distributed, published. What's the right word? Published some books. I've got a couple over here. I've got a Private War. I've got Preston Fossil's Landis book, and I've given everything else away. I have a hardcover of Scared to Death. We do novelizations, we do fun horror books. There's a lot of stuff that I've done. Mostly I just get to do this. I would say that's my job, is talking to folks like you and laughing with Janine.
That's an awesome job. Encyclopocalypse Publications.
Yes, you said it right. Congratulations.
Trust me,
all that practice paid off.
I was really worried. And on top of that, man, you have a little thing to do with Clive Barker's production company too, which is pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I did that for 10 years, man.
Awesome.
I started out as an intern. I worked there for free for a couple of years, just to stay on the radar. And finally a spot opened up. Started as an editor, copy editing comic books, which was totally a dream come true. And then the writer at that time couldn't complete a deadline, so they gave it to me. And then I ended up taking over the arc. And from there, I ended up, copy editing a lot of Clive's other books and became vice president of the company, produced some films, created content with Clive. It was a cool run. Books of Blood is on Hulu. You don't have to watch it. I've never seen it.
Did not think you'd say that.
It's a ringing endorsement.
I got as far as the credit with my name on it, and I was like, "This movie's great. That's all I need to know."
All right, so moving on to Janine's book. I want to hear all about this. How did you first hear about this project?
How did I hear about sausages? Well, Janine Pipe emailed me and made sure I could never forget about sausages. That is it's a what do you call it? It's like it's a bougie quote. Not to use that word too much, but there's a quote that says there's genuine magic in boldness. And Janine is the embodiment of that. She just emailed me out of the blue. I don't know who recommended. How did you get the email or the text? It was an email, right? If I recall correctly, you emailed and you just very enthusiastically sent me this amazing pitch. And it was just perfect. Like, she had all the elements in place, and she was like, here, and I can get an interview with this person, and Neil Marshall's on board, and she's pitching her little heart out. And I didn't have the heart to tell her, like, I was totally, she could have just said, how about a dog soldier's making of book, and I would have been, that sounds great. But there was a whole, because our nonfiction does very well. We've got some Halloween books and some phantasm like making of stuff by this dude Dustin McNeil, who does some really cool like long form, just massive. There, you can see I think the paperbacks are back there, unless I gave those away too. But he does these gigantic, making of books. And
what's his name?
Dustin McNeil.
Super
cool dude, super cool books. And I'm always very, very interested in more nonfiction, which I don't get pitched a lot. And Janine came in, and it was a fully formed book when she pitched it to me. It was all there. That's sort of what I'm looking for when someone pitches me something, not the, I've got an idea, what if we did this, and then you do all the work. Janine she'd already done all the work. And it was basically a matter of me going, yeah, that sounds awesome. and here we are with sausages. It's fantastic.
So we'll absolutely break down without spoilers, which definitely say, hey, halt, because me and Brennan might trip up with spoilers and don't want to do that. even though the movie's super old now, but
the movie's been out. If there are any spoilers, that's on you.
But with the book itself, there are a lot of really fucking cool things that I never knew about.
We don't want to spoil those things.
Yeah. So, while we got you on, man, I do want to ask about, you talked about pitches. Whatever you're comfortable with saying, I'd like to know, do you genuinely get that type of thing where you said, I have an idea, and then they want you to do most of the work? Because that can mean a few things, and I want to make sure I understand that correctly. What does that mean exactly when they expect you to do most of the work?
Okay. I'd say the best example would be, because this has been happening for 15 years to me now. Because when people find out you work for Clive Barker, they want to send you their ideas, So I got a lot of ideas sent my way that, the decade I was there, and the ideas still keep coming my way. But it's like the one that always made me laugh, which is even funnier now that the Candyman remake actually happened. But there, literally once a week, someone would find my email, send me a message that was like, hey, you ever thought about rebooting Candyman? And like, literally, that's the whole idea. And I'm I would sit there staring at the email. It's going like, I don't know. I feel like that was, it was a pretty obvious idea. We've kind of been trying to do that. There were things called rights, and there were all these other issues, but it's stuff like that. It's like the one sentence idea that doesn't really go anywhere. And then they're like, all right, I gave you magic. What else do you need? I told you to reboot Candyman. Well, it's all I got. So there's a lot of that I would say that's the best way to explain the concept of, here's an idea, now go do it.
You know what? I'm sure it's happened to each and every one of you, because we're all writers. It's happened to me too. And we've talked about this a few times, but it's worth repeating that, like, I was out with my parents before, and we were in the shop. Some guy said that something about writers and reading, and my mom's like, hey, tell him. I'm like, don't say anything. I don't want to
Don't
engage.
Do it.
Because 9 times out of 10, there is someone that will say, I have an idea, and you do the work. So that's pretty much what I thought it was. That's really funny and sad, man. I did check your website because I was curious. I don't see how you submit. So is it that someone tracks down your email address and stalks
Basically,
you?
yeah. You got to dox me.
You have to answer 3 riddles.
Yeah, we learned something else about Janine today. She's also a gypsy.
I do gotta hear from you.
Yes, Janine, you're getting away with murder here. You're far too quiet.
With Janine, she's one of the nicest people in the world, I would say. And I want to hear you say nice things about her. I'm putting you on the spot.
All day long. So, her email was fully realized. The book was already there. It was, she made it very easy for me to say yes. What else can you say? She's a beacon of positivity. Everyone that comes across her path loves her.
Fair enough.
She, she's just, I started it with the Goethe quote about boldness. And I think, that's the perfect quote to describe the way Janine lives her life. She just puts herself out there, and because she's awesome, people love her. So I like to emulate that a little more.
That's awesome. And we were saying before that it's really inspiring because there's, with me personally, when I first started the show, before that I was doing a review site, it was it was a little nerve-wracking because you put people on a pedestal. But when you start to talk to more people, you realize that most people are really, really, really nice. And that being said, they're not as outwardly friendly just in general as Janine. So
and few people are.
but to hear like Neil Marshall and the slew of just like celebrities that love dog soldiers that talked and interviewed in this book it's really, it gives people hope that like, hey, she didn't have like all these connections starting off the bat, and she's just herself, and that's, at the end of the day, that's reassuring. If that's not inspiring, I don't know what it is. So Brennan, take over, because I'm just going to keep saying the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I'll add that's the sort of the Dustin, who does the other nonfiction books I've mentioned, is in a similar operates in a similar capacity. He doesn't he doesn't live in California or New York. He's not plugged into the entertainment industry, but he's tenacious. He gets all the interviews. People love his books, and he does really well. Like, he doesn't have to. You don't have to have the job in LA to make the entertainment dream come true. You can be a working writer. You can be all you have to do is say that you are. Like, that's Janine woke up one day and said, I'm a writer, and guess what? Here we all are. It's literally how it works. That's it.
She kicked its ass into existence. Yeah.
I was told by my counselor in middle school, 8th grade, because I wanted to write my whole life, and it used to be filmmaking. That was my focus back then. And he said, the only way you're going to do that is if you move to California and New York. But keep in mind, that was 2001, 2002. So it was before social media is what it is today. But that's really coming from a publisher such as yourself and where you've worked. To hear that, it's reassuring, I'm sure, to people listening to this that are newer or aspiring writers. So appreciate that.
No, absolutely. You can write, wherever you are. That's the beauty of writing.
Yeah.
It's true. Janine, I want to throw it to you. So, Mark kind of took us through receiving a fully formed idea, and you talked a little bit about snowballing the idea of just taking this movie you loved and turning it into a how-to book. But truth be told, you don't spend a lot of time there in the book, because there's this attitude of like, it's not about me, I want to talk about this movie, let's see if we can do that by page 7. So here's your opportunity. Tell us, how you arrived at that fully formed pitch that you sent to Mark.
Ooh, great question. I want to know too.
Yeah, it was all to do with timing, really. I had realized that we were coming up to the 20th anniversary, and it was almost a now or never. It was a perfect time to write something. And one of my bucket list items had been to write for Fangoria, which, for a lot of horror writers, Fangoria is the be all and end all of magazines.
Mm-hmm.
And I had pitched to Phil over there again to write a short feature about the 20th anniversary. And that was kind of how I originally got in touch with Neil. And that kind of thing, reaching out to him via his agent and saying, I've got, I want to be able to write this feature for Fangoria. Can I interview you and all this kind of stuff? And through Neil, he got me in touch with Sean Pertwee and Kevin McKidd and Darren Morford to start with as well and some of the special effects guys to write the piece for Fangoria. But what I found was that although the Fangoria piece is amazing, it was only 2,000 words because it's a magazine piece amongst so many other features. And Neil had so many stories and he was so infused in speaking about the movie and everybody else that had been involved with it, even though it was like coming up to 20 years old, it was still like the favorite movie that they'd ever made, the most fun that they'd ever had on set and all this kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, there's so much more here. I could write a whole book about this. So originally I spoke to Neil and I said to him, I pitched the idea to Neil about a biography, whether that might be something that he was interested in. And Neil actually said to me, I would love for you to write a biography about me, but I've just read a book called You've Got Red on You, which is the Shaun of the Dead making of book. And I would absolutely love someone, hint, hint, to write a book like that about dog soldiers. So it was kind of actually Neil that said to me, why don't you write a book about dog soldiers? So I was like, shit. Okay, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. What do you say to that? There's
right,
only one
okay.
answer.
So my favorite director in the entire world wants me to write a book about my favorite movie in the entire world. Well, that's awesome. But I kind of need a publisher because everything that I've done so far had either been short stories that I'd submitted for anthologies or my own collection, which I self-published. And I knew something as big as this would be, there was no way that I could possibly self-publish it. I just didn't have all of the things that I would need. And I knew about Encyclopocalypse because I had Fright Night, the novelization. And I went onto the website and I realized that there was, obviously that they do a lot of the movie tie-in stuff, but there was some other bits and pieces as well. And I actually, because we'd followed each other on Twitter, and I actually sent a DM. And I believe it was Preston that replied to me on the DM and said, you need to talk to Mark. So that's how I got your email from Preston. You can thank him.
Mystery solved.
There we go, mystery solved. So he said, you need to talk to Mark. And I was like, oh, okay, because Mark is like an entity that people speak about and nobody knows how to get hold of him. This mysterious person. So I was like,
Even my
okay,
best friend, they don't know how to get a hold of me either.
Exactly.
He refuses to put his email on the website. So.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So yeah, I
don't leave
used
this
many
room,
words.
guys.
And then basically what I did to Mark was I just was myself. And it was this massively garbled but overly enthusiastic kind of pitch that I sent to him. Hi Mark, I've got this book I want to write. I think that you're awesome. Please may I write it for you, kind of thing. It was literally, what I'm like, it was that kind of a pitch. It wasn't professional in the slightest. And the thing that I knew immediately, Mark messaged me straight back and was like, yes, we're going to do this. But it was also, I can't remember Mark's exact words, but it was something like being professional doesn't matter in this capacity. It's the enthusiasm, it's everything that you've got here, it's the fact that you've got Neil on board and all that kind of stuff. That's what we need. It doesn't need to be a dry kind of like, this is what I intend to do pitch. We've got everything that you need is right here. And that was it really. And now Mark can't get rid of me.
Yeah.
That's
right.
awesome.
4 hours of sleep going, yes, Janine is amazing. Can I go? No, Janine, can I please? May I leave?
I've never
that was it.
I'll get a text. She'll let me know when it's time.
So, the only one that I can remember that was ever that close to the camera on purpose was Ramsey Campbell. You and Ramsey.
On purpose?
Yeah,
Did it on purpose too?
He tried to be creepy.
Oh, that's funny.
I just had to throw that tidbit out there, not to gloss over Janine's thing. That sounds so like I'm not even surprised about how that happened. I am not surprised at all, and like I really hope that biography on Neil happens. I would so love to read that. That'd be amazing. I was curious about something with your press mark. Is this? Man, I might sound silly because I didn't do my homework on this, but is your press like, do you guys have books in chain bookstores, indie bookstores and stuff like that? Or can people, is it where people would just go on Amazon to look for this? Like, I'm just trying to see where people can find.
I mean, everything's on Amazon.
Sure.
We're in a few bookstores, especially Landis, Preston. But I think that's generally like, authors pounding the pavement. I mean, again, back to Janine's, work ethic. It really is just about, getting it out there. So Preston's another example of someone who knows how to sell his book. He just he's always doing conventions, he's always doing shows and screenings. He brings books with him to sign and talk about. Pardon me, cat hair. And then and he's the one that spread the word and told some of his favorite bookstores about the book, and so they were able to pick up a copy through Amazon and I think Ingram, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, we're in some bookstores. Some of them are bigger stores, some of them are like small indies. Like we've got books in Dark Delicacies. I always abbreviate. But Dark Delicacies in Burbank, where we do signings and stuff. They've got a lot of our books. It's basically, it's sort of a Build-A-Bear, press. It's the author tells me what they want. We see if we can make that happen. And if we try to make, every author's dream come true to the best of our abilities.
That's great. So speaking of dreams come true, I mean, your favorite director, your favorite movie, this is not going to be a fair question, Janine, but how do I word this? If you were to have dreamt this is the book I would have wanted to write, of the entire process so far, what would you say has put the biggest smile on your face?
Going right back to the beginning, just Neil accepting the interview in the first place, which was via his agent. Because as much as agents are vital in the industry and needed and all of that, they are buggers to get through sometimes. And I actually, when I contacted Neil's agent, I also contacted Sean's agent at the same time. And Sean, so two of my happiest, it was my happiest and one of my worst memories of the whole thing were together, because Neil's agent got back to me straight away and said yes. Sean's agent got back to me straight away and said no, he doesn't want anything to do with it. And
oh wow.
Obviously I spoke to Sean many times since, and he didn't know anything about it. And he was like, of course I wanted to do it, but it just shows that the agents do field things, and sometimes it's not always the actor or whoever you're talking to's choice. And that was everybody else more or less that I spoke to with this was because of Neil, because he had personal emails and personal phone numbers and all of that kind of thing. So there was no trying to get through all those third parties, which again, I say, agents are necessary, but they can be difficult to try and pin people down with. So just having Neil on board 100% through all of, I mean, he more or less co-wrote it with me, you can say it in that respect, because he was there every step of the way. Neil, have you got so-and-so's number? Yeah, here we go. Just make sure that you tell him it's from me, kind of thing. Or he'd be like, because again, to start with, I don't know whether the emails were going to junk mail, possibly, because, nobody, they don't know me. So my emails could have gone or whether they were just ignoring me. Again, absolutely fine. When you get this Disney email come through, you're probably a bit like, what the fuck is that? So Neil was kind of obviously like telling people she's legit. This is she is doing this, but really, please speak to her kind of thing. And the first time my first conversation with Neil was just a phone call. Thank God, because I was like bright red, like sweating, like just like absolutely like I think I was like shaking as I was speaking to him. And then I had a phone call with I thought it was a phone call with Sean Pertwee the next day. So I'm kind of sat here where I am now, again, bright red, shaking, sweating, thinking, oh my God, it's Sean Pertwee. And it flashed up as a FaceTime interview, obviously video interview with him. And I was like, I have to look Sean Pertwee in the eye as I speak to him now. But they were all, and the same with Kev McKidd, he did that as well. He just suddenly popped up on my screen and was like, hi, nice to meet you. But they were all just so lovely. And just speaking with them all, they were so generous with their time. I mean, Kev McKidd is just so busy. He's over in LA as well, doing Grey's Anatomy and all of that kind of stuff. So we spoke for nearly an hour and a half. Half of it was about dog soldiers, half of it was about just other completely random stuff because he just wanted to talk. He was lovely. And all of that's just put such a massive smile on my face all the way through. And I'm like, yay, I spoke to one of my most favorite actors in the world. Woo-hoo.
That is so cool. You know what? To talk about Sean Pertwee, just from another angle, we had Jordan Harper on last year and he wrote for Gotham and he had nothing but wonderful things to say about those actors. Yeah. And it's really cool to hear that because that's stuff, I mean, I don't know where else I would have heard things of that nature. So that's another amazing thing, that they are just people a lot of the times. It's pretty cool. Brennan, there's a lot to pick from this from Sausages. So
yeah,
where do you want to start?
I want to take us on a quick tangent before I go back and throw another question out. A theme of this episode seems to be enthusiasm, and I think it's so important to note, whether you are a writer or even an indie press, just how important enthusiasm is in picking who to work with, picking your projects and things like that. Mark, one thing I wanted to throw out is when Silver Shamrock went belly up a few months ago, Encyclopocalypse was one of the very first presses that kind of came out publicly and said, what can we do to help? And we've seen a couple books get reissued there. Glenn Rolfe's books both came out with fantastic new covers by Donnie Goodman. And I was one of those authors too who was displaced, and I found that the importance of finding somebody who you want to go with distribution, you want to go with somebody who's gonna market well. But what it came down to when making the decision on where I was going to go and what I was going to do with these homeless books, I really couldn't overstress people pitching just how excited they were to read these things. And that's all that was zipping through my head when I hear the exchange between you and Janine, with her filling an email with, I mean, was there anything besides exclamation marks in there? Was there? And then,
No,
you just kind of, you getting that infectious enthusiasm, giving it right back. Like, I don't give a shit how professional this is. Like, this is somebody who is unbelievably passionate about this work and is going to, throw everything she's got at it and, give it her absolute best. So again, anybody who's listening, like, that enthusiasm, it matters. For as far as an actual question is concerned, I would love to hear from either or both of you. Janine, I'll throw it to you first, about kind of the timeline of everything, interviews and transcribing and, formatting and just everything that went into making the book come together.
It all happened really fast, actually, and part of that was a sort of a self-imposed deadline, because I wanted it to be as close to the actual 20th anniversary of the movie, because that was the whole point of it. it wouldn't have mattered if it had come out in like the October instead of the May, but May 10th was the 20th anniversary of the movie, and that was the date I had in mind. I wanted it to be as close as possible to that. So I think by the time Mark and I had exchanged sort of contracts and emails and things was probably start of to mid-January. So I kind of just went at it basically. And again, I already had quite a few contacts because of writing the Fangoria article and all of that kind of stuff. And Neil was like right on the ball as well with like, these are the people that you need to speak to, you know, sort of like the different designers and whatnot. He just like sent me a spreadsheet with all of like the names and people. And luckily, I think there was maybe 2 people that we asked that just couldn't commit because of they were filming, you know, so they were away and they couldn't, although they would have liked to have done something, they weren't able to. But every other person, again, just in testament to how much people revere Neil within the field as well. Everybody else was like, yes, of course I want to do that. And I'll get it to you like more or less straight away. So it went quite quickly, just being able to get all those bits and pieces. As I say, it was only a couple of people, Kev being one of them, just because he is so busy and over in LA, so therefore time difference and that kind of thing. But otherwise, I got most of the interviews done, recorded them, just sat and transcribed, and you know, just sometimes, as we all do as writers, would be there just sat at midnight, still like listening to interviews and tapping away and stuff. But yeah, it also, it was, I don't want to say it was easy to write, but it wasn't difficult because, again, I was just like, oh, I get to write about this bit now. Yay! And kind of like, you know, it was exciting to write about. I was watching chunks of it or listening to bits of it and being like, oh, brilliant. Yeah, add that bit in now and that kind of thing. So, well, you know, I'd find myself like, oh, is it tomorrow yet? So I can write the next part that I'm doing and everything. And I had feedback from Christian, who was at the press. He did all of the formatting and just made it look beautiful, and would curse me every time I'd send another photo over and that kind of thing. Because you know,
also an Encyclopocalypse author.
Yeah, that's right. And he gave me a lot of feedback about things as we were going as well. Because of course, then that was another reason why I knew that I needed somebody like the press to do this, because it was never just going to be words. It was always going to be the photos, and we've got original shot lists. We've got parts of the script and all of that kind of stuff. And I knew that there was I can barely use Word. You know, so I knew there was no way I was going to be able to do all of that. And Christian's just fucking genius when it comes, because it really does. And so many people have just like, you know, even if they haven't read it, have flicked through the book, there it is, and just been like, it just looks beautiful inside, and it really does. So yeah, it was. And again, the other thing that's easier for me with writing this is that you're not second guessing yourself, because it's not fiction. So when you're writing fiction, you're constantly like, oh my god, there's a giant plot hole here, kind of thing. Now I've got to go back and fix that. What is this character doing? You know, they started off doing this and now they're doing, oh my god, and you like get yourself all caught up in circles and open cans of worms about different things. Whereas with this, there was none of that, because I was just chronologically following the actual movie and then just filling it in with little tidbits that different people had given me along the way. So it's actually, in that respect, far easier than writing your own stuff, because you're not questioning all the time, should I do this? Should I do that? Am I going to offend someone if I write this? Or would a character really do that? It was just all there.
You know what's really cool about all this is you're talking about Fangoria. I mean, like, your book is discussed on all the biggest websites in this genre. And was that something that you personally did with paving the I'm fucking that phrase up. What is it? It just left my head. Someone help me out, please. I am drowning.
Like everyone's shaking their head.
Okay. I don't know the phrase. You guys aren't helping, so I'll move on. Janine, was that your doing, or was that just like the word spread like a hot fire? That's not the phrase either. I'm fired.
That's okay. It's fine. It's fine. We know what you mean.
All right. In this metaphor, sausages is Nashville hot chicken. And Neil Marshall is
The Colonel, obviously.
Yeah, the Colonel.
roast pheasant. What do we? What's the hot metaphor? Where are we at?
Stop talking. You're sounding like me.
Yeah. Oh God. So getting the press release with Fangoria wasn't too difficult because I already had that in, if that makes sense, because I'd already written something for Phil, so I already knew Angel and Ariel and other people involved over at Fangoria. So it was just a case of Mark getting the press release written up and sent over, kind of thing. That wasn't too bad when we did that original one. And then I kind of just knew that I'd wanted Bloody Disgusting to be involved in some way, and it seemed that the cover reveal and then the official sort of when it was released just seemed to be something that they would be interested in. And so I contacted John over there and said, would you be interested in this? And he of course just said yes straight away. And then we also got Dread Central, but again, it is a lot of it is just through Twitter interaction, which Twitter is one of these things where there's a lot of positives and there's a lot of negatives, but I use it in a very specific way with networking and that kind of thing, and being supportive of other people. And I've managed to build up, not a huge presence, but enough that I'm able to approach people like Bloody Disgusting and Dread Central now, and they kind of know who I am. So I'm able to say, please, may you do this. But and again, it's just always that it's being like courteous and polite as well, and not kind of saying, I've got a book out, will you, put it on your website on the day? There's nothing demanding about it. It's sending them all of the relevant information so they don't have very much work to do, and then being like, would you be able to please? I'd really appreciate it. You're a brilliant website. You'll get me loads of eyes on that, and I'd be really grateful if you could. So it's just that interaction as well.
That's amazing. And it's pounding the pavement, Pat. So I remember
on the pavement. Good expression.
That's the path on fire.
There we go. No, that's excellent stuff. That is really important to know, that when you're using social media, to just kind of keep your eye on the prize. And that's what you do, because it can really be any day and someone's going to be fighting. And you don't want to get roped into that for whatever reason. Because if you don't, you get results like what you got. And you can't even talk about most of it, which is amazing. Okay, so what I'm about to ask specifically, stop me if there's anything that you don't want revealed for potential readers. So one thing in this book, I'm jumping way ahead to the end, you talk about famous fans. And one thing I didn't know was, first off, Simon Pegg, who's one of my favorite actors, could have been in it. And also Edgar Wright has a connection with it too. So is that where you talked with Neil, or how'd you find that? How'd you find that out? That's really cool.
Yeah, that would have come from Neil. Just the initial, because we had maybe 4 or 5 sort of Zoom sessions where, like being like in a writer's room kind of thing, where we would just sit and he would tell me bits and pieces. And again, we just did it chronologically. So when we got to the casting bits kind of thing, and he suddenly, threw in Simon Pegg and Jason Statham, who we also tried to get hold of, but we weren't able to get past agents for him. But, he is super duper famous.
Yeah.
And it was all those little nuggets that Neil would just throw in, and then I'd be, and it was, I also love Simon Pegg, Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz are 2 of my most favorite movies as well. So again, it was like, oh, have you got an email for Simon then? Yeah. Try this and see if it works. And he was another one that kind of like emailed me back straight away, and I was like, Simon Pegg. was so cool. Oh my god. And he was lovely as well. His was quite a few of them were own like sort of those kind of guys were just email exchanges, but it was still just as exciting. I was still sweating and shaking as I was typing my questions and things. Yeah, and again, you know, and I loved his story, the fact that he hadn't watched the film until recently, because it was always his like one that got away, and
Yep.
you know, that kind of thing. And I just thought that was so cool as well. And then he was just lovely to Darren Morfitt, who obviously ended up playing Spoon, like that he was the perfect person, and you know, he was glad of the path that he'd taken and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of parallels between Dog Soldiers and Shaun of the Dead, you know, to when you look into the makings of them, and I would definitely recommend Clark Collis's You've Got Red on You, making of Shaun of the Dead book as well. That's another one which is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous book. And that is really, it's very similar to Sausages in that it's very, very detailed and insightful. But he's got years and years of writing for Entertainment Weekly and all of that kind of stuff. So his is more probably journalistic, whereas mine's just like, yay, I love this film, and here's some information for you.
Brendan, off to you again, sir.
You know, that just reminds me of Patrick and I kind of simultaneously got 20, 30 pages into this book, and we both said the same thing, that just the love of it shows through, and you're unapologetic on that, and you tell everybody right up front, like, look, this is not going to be this, you know, behind the scenes spats and all this stuff. This is, you're going to learn some cool shit about this. We're going to dive into scene by scene and get some, you know, some tales about the making from these big names, but I'm gonna gush for 400 pages here, so like strap in, because here we go. Now, it sounds like the overall, the writing of it was, I'm still blown away by you saying you basically started it in January and were able to put it out in May. Like, that's still running around in my head, but it sounds like overall it was pleasant, and as you put it, not difficult. So what I want to know is, I think the two questions. Number one is easy. Would you do this again? And number two, if you could write a behind the scenes book about any movie, forget the contacts you do or don't have, what would you do?
Okay, so would I do it again? Yes. Will I be doing it again? Yes, definitely.
Awesome.
Any movie. It's difficult because like Neil's movies are my favorite movies, and obviously I know Neil, so that would be, but okay, so this will be surprising because it's not even a horror movie, but my other most favorite movie, which I've watched about a zillion times, and again, it's one of those films I'm not allowed to watch with other people because I annoy them too much by just parroting their lines. It's The Goonies.
Oh my god, yep.
That's got enough horror elements that you can sneak that in there.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like the Fun House. Toby Hooper's the Fun House, but with kids.
I'm really surprised it's not a Disney movie. I really thought you were going to go there.
No, there you go. See, yeah, Goonies is one of my all-time favorite films since I was like 5 or 6 and first rented it from the video shop. Seen it so many times, and actually it's one of Neil's favorite movies as well. He absolutely loves all the Spielberg stuff. There's a lot of films like that inspired his original filmmaking, you know, of a Super 8 back in the day. And and if it was horror, another movie which I absolutely love is Brain Dead, or Dead Alive to you guys. So
Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson.
Yeah. Oh my.
That'd be crazy.
That should
happen.
That should happen. That should definitely happen. Oh my god. That got me excited for you. I can't think about, sorry, I'm just thinking about her talking to
I
Peter
want to
Jackson.
throw out really
can't
quick.
think of it.
In any of your talks with Neil, if ever the proposed sequel or sequels to Dog Soldiers were to go ahead, would you have a cameo in there? Oh. Would you show up as a corpse or something?
I hope so.
Yeah. I'd want to be a werewolf. Come on.
There you go.
Right. Why are you going to be a corpse in Dog Soldiers 2 when you can be a wolf?
Exactly.
Or a werewolf corpse.
Ooh, better.
There you go. I threw out corpse. You went with werewolf. This is you shooting for the damn stars again. All right.
Yeah. I'm not
You
playing a
gotta
corpse.
raise the bar.
They are some of the scariest werewolves to ever walk
They
on
are.
film.
Right.
They
Yeah.
really are.
And they're huge. So good luck. You know, when you were talking about in the book how I forget who it was. There was one of the soldiers was running away. I just thought, like, it doesn't matter. You're gonna die. They got 2 more legs than you. And they're massive. What do you do in that situation? And you know what I really like is how you bring up how, I think it was Neil that talked about it, how it's a horror version of Goldilocks. And I never thought of that movie like that until you brought that up and you explain why. And it makes perfect sense. That's really cool because a lot of the oldest stories, they're super fucked up and they are horror.
Oh, yeah.
And your love for the genre itself is just like, yeah, this makes sense that she would write this book. Brennan, I was wondering for the very next thing, because I really don't want to cover everything. I want people to, get going fresh. Is there anything else that you want to cover while we're on sausages?
I think we hit like a lot of the big bullet points, even the ones that we didn't ask questions about. Managed to work their way in. Something that I really took away was a book like this has to have the photos in it. It's okay, you're coming for the story, but at the same time it's a different monster than your average paperback that is just you're there to read it from cover to cover. You want to kind of see, when you're hearing a story, you want that visual of the scene it comes from. You want to remember what Kevin McKidd looked like in 2001 or whatever versus now. And I think that was so huge. The cover we didn't really talk about, but it is spectacular.
She's wearing it. Look at the shirt. Look at that.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Again, that was all Janine, by the way. She's like, I think he's willing to do the artwork. And I'm there going, well, then we'll do that.
That's awesome.
Easy decision.
Yeah, she made it very easy to say yes all the time.
Yep. And I mean, another thing we kind of skirted around was the formatting, the setup, the breakdown into sections that make it very easy and digestible. Like, I mean, it's wonderful. You did a knockout job, and 400 pages went by just in a blink. Really, really spectacular work.
Thank you.
Is there anything, Mark or Janine, that you guys want to cover that we haven't covered yet about sausages that you want people to know?
The book is amazing. Buy it, read it twice. Buy a copy for your friend, read it to them. We are discussing prepping the audiobook now, which I believe Janine is going to narrate.
No way. That's awesome.
Am I mistaken? Was I not the cat out of the bag?
That's the plan. Yep.
That's the
Wow.
plan. All right.
You're hooked
awesome.
in now. We cannot edit that out. I mean, we could, but we won't.
I refuse.
Mark's the boss. I got to do what he says.
There you go. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
excellent.
yes, that's what's happening. Janine is narrating the book. It's gonna be super fun because I mean it's the book is told it's her voice. It's not a traditional making of. It's like hearing your best friend tell you all about their favorite movie. Like that's that's the tone of the book, and I think it's a ton of fun. I love the way it came out. And totally I want to go back to the creation, because it was back in January that Janine said, I think I want to release it here. And she did set up her own deadline, and she met that deadline with enough time to, build it and fix the, copy edit errors and get everything ready. But yeah, like there's
Holy shit.
Yeah, and she wrote, like, from that moment on, from saying, yeah, this is going to be the deadline, this is going to be when we release it, she got to work. And the deadline was, I mean, a deadline isn't an actual thing. If you think about deadlines, on a conceptual level, they're not physical. Like, you can't. So there was nothing actually forcing her to meet that deadline aside from will. And I think that's the key. Is she had this thing, she had this vision, and it started with a question at Fangoria, and it ballooned, it turned into an interview, and then it became something bigger. And that's sort of, once you take that first step, that's sort of how it works.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really important that you do talk about that, because it's not just writing the book, editing it, getting perhaps I'm assuming beta readers' eyes. Wow, yeah. That's incredible. That's super impressive,
right? And that's all Janine. That's 100%.
Not surprised at this point, man. And I think I said it while you were here. Maybe I didn't, but it'd be pretty awesome to one day see her name on a movie.
Yeah,
perhaps with Jed Shepard, with Sean Pertwee starring in it. There's a lot of excellent things
on track.
There's a lot of excellent things coming out of your side of the ocean there, Janine. Seriously, it's just like the sequel to the British, the Attack of the British culture, and it's amazing. I'm wondering if you're interested in commenting on anything like that, because there's always been stuff on, like, London, for example, the music scene, movie scene, TV scene. But outside of there, is there kind of maybe creators or maybe anything in the field that you really want to bring up? Because the biggest audience for this show is the American audience. There's a biggish audience in Canada and Europe, but most is from America. So that's why I asked that question, because they may not know some things that you may suggest.
There's it's funny because we've had stuff obviously in Britain for years and years. You've got all the Hammer horror and all of that kind of stuff, started off through here. And whether there's a resurgence of British horror coming, or whether it's just always been there, it's just that Hollywood kind of took over for a while and whatnot, I'm not really sure. But when you've got people like you just mentioned him, Jed Shepard and Rob Savage, sort of bringing things like Host and Dashcam, and the fact that they're now linked with Blumhouse, so there's more and more stuff coming out from them. There's so many big British authors over here. You've mentioned Ramsey Campbell earlier, who is another just genuinely really kind and nice person, who is willing, if he's got time, just to be able to comment on different things for you and whatnot. And I have found that a lot within the British horror scene. And I don't know whether it's because we're a smaller beast, but people tend to be genuinely very helpful, and kind of there's not an awful lot of competition here. It's very much kind of like, if there's an anthology and somebody sees it and they think, oh, you would be good to write for that. It's not a kind of like, oh, I want to write for this, so I'm going to keep this to myself. It's immediate, like, oh, you should write for this because you'd be really good. And even just where I'm from, which is, it's at least an hour on the train to London. So where I live in the southwest, just like, sort of down the road from me, you've got Gemma Moore and Ross Jeffrey and different people like that. And we're kind of like always there for each other, like message each other and say, oh, can you look at this for me? Can you do that for me, kind of thing? But it's always reciprocated as well. There's a lot of interaction. Like Ross will ask me to beta read something. I'll ask Ross for a blurb for something and that kind of stuff. So we do help each other out a lot, I think. And it's just easier for meetups and things, obviously, as well. Although I have to say that the majority of people that I work with are over in the States. I've got a lot of sort of the podcast that I write for on a weekly basis, Something Scary. They're over in LA as well. I tend to have a lot of meetings with people in LA and think, one day I've got to get over there. It's going to happen one day. But yeah, there's, you know, especially you've got like Adam Neville, Tim Lubben, people like that as well, you know, sort of that have got stuff, not just their books are not doing, it's not just their books that are doing really well, but they've got like obviously Adam's got a couple of movies out now, and so is Tim and whatnot. There's more and more stuff coming out that way as well. And I think that Britain is kind of like back being noticed again by more people, as you know, sort of we are bringing new stuff and just stuff that, you know, no disrespect to the American filmmakers and horror creators, but there's, you know, there's a lot more history here as well, obviously, because we're so much older and whatnot. And there's just the different kind of horror that comes from here, and whether there's, you know, like with the folk horror and the legends and the lore and that kind of stuff, it's different from the American kind of horror that comes out. So yeah, I think there's going to be more and more coming out, definitely. And I'm so excited to see what Jed and Rob and Gemma Hurley are going to do next, because they're just on fire at the moment.
Absolutely. Dash Cam, I haven't seen that yet, but I'd love to. And you know, speaking of like the history of England, I mean, you got all the Germanic and English tribes and things before you were countries. And it's just, I know a little bit about it, but not enough to really speak in full detail about it. But it's interesting enough where you could just in one era of England, you could have a really, really unique tale that I don't think is in American culture. So, Brennan, you want to lead us to the next topic, man?
All right, so let's go on to what are you currently reading? So anything that you are reading now, anything you have read recently, anything you want to plug. Mark, let's start with you.
Plugging. I'm reading novelization.
Anything that your press has coming out soon that you'd like to...
Well, sausages, obviously, everyone. Buy sausages, read sausages, listen to sausages when it comes out on audio cassette.
Eat sausages while you're reading
sausages while you read sausages and listen to sausages and watch YouTube videos of sausage making. Sausages is awesome. You know, pick up a copy of Landis, pick up a copy of Wishmaster. There's you know, we got some cool novelizations. We have this week, by the way, not when this is coming out, but you know, the week that we're recording this, Friday, I believe, Manborg comes out. So we've got the Manborg novelization by Brett Nelson, which is going to be a delight.
That looks pretty awesome.
And we promise we're getting into the, you know, fun little collectible. I will fly this flag, but I can say no more. But we are getting into the fun little collectible, you know, one-off item space that like Severin and people have been doing so well. We came up with a really, really cool idea for Manborg that we're going to announce after the book comes out.
Ooh.
So keep your eyes peeled for that.
That sounds amazing.
Do you know what it is, Janine? Have I shared it with you?
No, and you better do after this. So
I'll send it. I'll let you know.
Janine, what are you currently reading or want to talk about?
Oh, I was going to say Manborg, but Mark has now stolen that from me.
Peter to the punch. I stole your thunder.
He is so rude.
Because I just read it as well, and it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. I decided to treat myself because one of the things, because I'm so busy now with everything else that I'm doing, one of the things that I've had to kind of let go really is reviewing. And it's a weird feeling when you don't review stuff anymore, because although I will still read obviously things that are new, that are coming out, you know, to be able to help spread all of that, you suddenly realize that you can read older stuff again and kind of not feel guilty about it. And I think we've talked about this before, how there was just always this feeling when you're being sent things to review, obviously you feel that you need to read that and you have to read that, and there's all this new stuff coming out, and then suddenly you're like, I've got all my Stephen King books I want to read or reread, so I've treated myself to misery.
Ooh.
Oh, that's awesome.
Treating myself to misery.
Yeah.
What a concept.
It's such a nice feeling to be able to go back, because I mean we all know Stephen King's like, it's like going home, isn't it? It's just comforting to read it.
For sure.
And it's just so nice to be able to read it without kind of feeling, oh, I feel really bad for reading this now. So yeah, and I just at the minute arcs and things for blurbs are kind of the other thing which I'm just focusing on as much as possible. And Victor Mist has just sent me her short story collection for a potential blurb.
Nice.
So that's moved up obviously to the top of the list now. So yeah, blurbs are kind of like the highest, and then arcs, I guess, and then just being able to treat myself and read or even reread things that have just been sat there looking at me saying, please read me again. And now I'm like, yes, I can.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I'm glad that you talked about older things, because there's so many older books that I wish more people would talk about. I mean, even like The Exorcist, like, sure, people talk about the movie, but like the book is so fucking good. I like the movie, but the book is, in my opinion, I get why they didn't shoot certain things in the 70s. It's just so good. Brendan, what are you reading, man?
Hey, let's go with that older things theme. I am reading Urban Gothic by Brian Keene. And if you haven't read this one, like the most succinct way I can put it is it's kind of like What If the Hills Have Eyes happened in the middle of the city. Well, let's leave it there. I mean, if that doesn't get you to want to read it, then I don't know what to do for you. We mentioned Donnie Goodman earlier. I just finished his debut collection.
Yeah.
Killer freaking cover. But really, really good stuff in there. Just a lot of like gems of ideas, very sharp writing. I'm pretty excited to see what he comes out with next and what he can do with, I think the longest story in there is like 6,000 words. And he talks about, I want to try something 15, 20, novella length, novel length. I want to see what he can do with different length stuff. And the next episode we're recording is with Paul Tremblay. So
Ooh.
I just started the Pallbearers Club. And it's really cool because, Paul does a really great job of writing. I don't know if experimental is the right word, but, especially if you read Growing Things, just he doesn't do straightforward narrative. And this one's kind of written as fake memoir that, somebody who knows the person who's writing the memoir is like writing notes on, but you're full of shit, that's not how the way it happened, things like that. It's very, very interesting. And like any of his books, it sucks you in to see where the hell is this going. So that's what I'm reading. Patrick, how about you?
I'm actually finishing up. I'm like a few pages away from finishing up L.M. Labat. She's like Vic LeMay Mist in this, specifically in the sense that they both have these kick-ass vampire series out. They couldn't be any more different from each other. But I got coffee from my wife. I will edit this part out. Let me rewind because I just tore open his coffee from.
That's a good wife.
Yeah. Okay, so The Sanguinarian Id is what I'm reading. It's the second one. I'm not even going to attempt to say the German word because I'll probably butcher it, but that's for a blurb. So I'm almost done with that. And it's just, she's a newer writer. Her first book came out a few years ago, but she hasn't put out anything in a while. And she'll be in the anthology I'm editing for Death's Press. And it's a Western. I can't wait for that because her intelligence as a person, never mind as a writer, is one that, those types of people where you're just like, they are so smart. I just want to hear them talk because I will learn so many things. That's how she is when she talks about stuff that she's really excited about. So that's someone I want to throw out there. And speaking of older books, I want to start this. You guys inspired me.
Hey,
Lansdale, the complete drive-in.
Yeah, we're in the midst of doing a couple Lansdale audios right now.
God,
Bubba Hotep is wrapped and being edited.
Nice.
And In the Tall Grass, his collection is also wrapped and being edited.
That's
and
awesome.
I'd like to add you can never go wrong with Lansdale, by the way. Joe is amazing. If you've never read Freezer Burn, I think that's his best novel. And it is devastating.
I have not read that. He's got so many books out, man. I can't keep
There
up
are
with
so
him.
many books, and there's like 37 Happen Leonard books, and like the guy just keeps writing. I think he told me one time, like if he goes a couple days without writing, he starts to get real antsy. It's like it's got to come out, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Joe's amazing. We're doing some Joe books, and I forgot to mention. Speaking of Christian Francis, he did a trilogy of books called the Animus Chronicles that we will be releasing as a compendium. All 3 books in one, which is going to be a pretty, gorgeous, massive tome.
That's
absolute mental entertainment.
That's amazing.
That's what I call it. That's what Christian Francis writes. Mentaltainment.
There's one more Lance. That's funny that you brought up Bubba. I hope to, because he sent me a copy of Bubba and the Cosmic Bloodsucker. But can't talk Bubba and the Cosmic Bloodsuckers. And
it's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. It's a tongue twister. So yeah, lots of Lansdale and Ronald Kelly's stuff that I got to catch up on too. There's newer things too, but you know what? I'll keep it at that because we all have a very long TBR. I really love how Janine. I love how you did separate that, because the first year that I started reviewing, I got just a shitload of books, and I couldn't read them all because I got overexcited because free books, and it's books. It's really, I think it's really interesting that you did say blurb, arcs, fun to read, because that's kind of, we can all relate to that now. And that's important to know, because I'm sure you guys too, I'd get stressed out and be like, I can't get this in on time.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes the joy away from reading. And that's why we started doing this. Yeah.
That's why I started the publishing company. It was like, it was literally an excuse to read more books. It was, well, now I have to, it's great.
Work.
Yeah. Now I have no choice.
Brennan, I'm gonna
turn it into a job.
That's awesome, man. I'm gonna go to you to lead us to I believe our last topic for this episode.
Is that final thoughts?
No, I thought it was the editing thing, man. We never got back to that.
Oh, I thought, Janine, this is why you can't, I can't read your mind. I can't read it. And if I could, I wouldn't want to.
I can't read it either, man.
I can't even read
mine. What I was thinking is, let's end the episode and then she can go back and record that answer and you can edit it. But now, because of that, you've given yourself more editing to do. So
it does, if she's fine with it, it doesn't matter. It's fine. So what the hell? How did I even ask it? Ginny, is there anything that you want to talk about as far as editing anthologies? I'm just curious about what your process is, and really, I know the Clash one's not by far your first one, so you've got experience in a lot of different areas of this. I'm curious what you would have to say to anyone that's interested in editing, or anyone that's interested in pursuing editing anthology specifically.
Don't be fooled into thinking that it's an easy job. That's for certain. Because you're not the one writing it doesn't make it any easier, because you obviously, and it all depends as well, sort of what kind of anthology you're doing, whether it's invite only or submission only or a mixture. And if it's your first gig, and especially if it's your first kind of gig with a press that is also there first, I would highly recommend doing invite only. And I am actually doing one with Encyclopocalypse. With Christian, we are co-editing an anthology, which will be it's called Legends in Law. But because it's the first time that we've done it through Encyclopocalypse, we're doing invite only, because it just makes it so much easier, because obviously you have that control over what's coming in. But when you do anything to do with open call submissions, be prepared for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of submissions, because, you know, people are excited, people want to send stuff in, and it is hard. And that if you are also writing, and this is another reason why I had to kind of cull the reviewing, was because by the time I'd read like 10 stories for submissions, I didn't want to, you know, I couldn't even face thinking about reading again, you know, then for a review or, you know, for something like that. So it is tiring, it is time consuming, and it is heartbreaking when you have, say, 10 places and 200 stories, when you have to whittle it down. So far, everything I've done has been co-editing, and that does make things a little bit easy, because you obviously have two sets of opinions. Then, you know, should we use this one or should we use that one? And sometimes you can palm it off to your co-editor. I can't choose between these. You're going to have to choose for me, kind of thing. But yeah, it's very rewarding. Again, as with anything that I do, I'm very, very honest with the people that I'm working with. I am very interactive with the people that I'm writing with. So specifically when we did Slasher, anything that, you know, we had like a group chat, and you know, there wasn't any part of the process once we'd got to obviously the selections and everything, which was kind of hidden from the authors. So I let them know exactly what was happening at any stage, and they all very much appreciated that as well. And that's the way that I approach it. It's kind of like being an open book, and being, yes, you're editing it, but you're also there to kind of like, you're almost mother to your authors as well. You know, you need to be there to answer any questions that they've got, because they're entrusting you with like their baby, their words, which they've given to you to be able to do something with. They're putting all of their faith that you're going to do something properly with this now, put it out in the world, promote it, you know, make money for them and all of that kind of stuff. So it's really, really hard. It's really, really time consuming, but it's very rewarding as well. It really is, to be able to say that you've had all these beautiful stories and you've got to put them all together and then send them off. And, you know, it is a wonderful feeling to be able to know that you did that. I would definitely say that it helps being a writer yourself to be able to pick out different bits and pieces, and obviously with the editing side of things as well. When you're copy editing or line editing the stories, it helps to have that writer's eye. And again, that was something that which we were very interactive with the authors. If it was just a typo or something like that, you know, we don't bother to let them know of the track changes and things. But if it was anything structural, then obviously it is down to them to agree to those changes and all of that kind of thing. But it's just that being very open and kind of being like, this is amazing, I love the way you did this, but if we just changed it around that little bit, I reckon it could be even more amazing, kind of thing. And luckily, everybody that has submitted for the anthologies that I've worked for so far has been like, yeah, definitely, yeah, I agree with that. And I'm the same as an author when I've sent stuff. Kenneth Kane was one of the best editors I've ever worked with. You know, he took this, you know, my story, and kind of said, this is brilliant, but what if you add this, 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 and this? And that's what a really good editor can do as well. They're obviously they're there to make your story even better. They're there to improve it, and they're there to make you have an enjoyable experience, to make you want to come back to the press as well. You know, if you submit something and then you kind of have a terrible time with that editor, you either never hear from them, or they're rude to you or anything like that, then you're not going to want to promote that anthology. You're not going to want to work with that press again. And so it's just about, you know, it's being open with people, it's being honest with people, it's being polite. And they all said that, just like my enthusiasm for being like, this is our book, we're going to put it out now, let's do this podcast, let's do this, you know, everything kind of thing. And it's always been enjoyable, but it is hard work, and you have to have time dedicated to it, because again, it's people are trusting you. And if you say that the responses will be out at this time, you better bloody make sure that you do that, because people are waiting. And again, as authors, we know what it's like to be constantly checking your emails. Am I going to get an acceptance or a rejection today? Am I going to get something? And that not knowing is horrible. So I made sure that people knew in a very timely fashion, which gave me a lot of work as well, because I gave personal responses to every rejection.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
I don't know that I'd do that again, because it was, and especially with the Clash one, obviously we've got loads and loads and loads of submissions, but I kind of wanted to be able to say, you know, I loved your story. If we'd have had 100 stories in this anthology, then, you know, but at the end of the day, we couldn't because of this or this, and then just gave them positive feedback, maybe a way to like, if you were going to send it again, maybe I would just do this kind of thing, or just at the end of the day, it was a perfect story, but I already had one that was exactly the same theme, you know, and you can only have within a themed anthology, you don't want 20 that are more or less just Friday the 13th kind of thing. I've already got one that's set in a summer camp for like that. I can't have another one. And just be honest with people. I waffled way too much then.
No. I was just thinking quite a few times, this is an incredible. I didn't expect that long of a response, but that was amazing. I don't really have anything to add to that, because I think that was perfect. So
showstopper.
Yeah. So I'll just say, Janine, where can people follow you?
Twitter is the best place to find me. Janine Pipe 28. That's where I tend to hang around the most.
Is that a pint you're drinking, by the way?
It's a pint glass, but it is water.
Oh, okay. Pint of water. Come on, what is this? I have an orange here that I've peeled, and I'm going to take a bite the second the camera cuts. It's going to cram the whole thing in my face.
Mark, where can people follow you, man?
Basically, you know, reach out to people, and if you're lucky, they'll give you my email. But Encyclopocalypse has Twitters and Instagrams and all those things. So you know, just try to spell Encyclopocalypse, and you'll get there eventually.
Yeah, good luck.
There were riddles.
As my wife calls it, in Pocacycalypse, which I absolutely.
It's even harder to say.
and that's not even her, you know, trying to be funny. That's literally her trying to say the name of the company.
Your endorsement for your own products are kind of funny, and I just think that they will make people want to search.
Well,
try.
You know, if like the whole point of this is to have fun. Like if
I agree.
Yeah, you know.
So, I'm not being taking shots at you. I agree.
No. I you know, it's supposed to be fun. So I appreciate the acknowledgement. You know, like if I'm sitting here just being all serious about all, like that's not, no one wants to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Yeah. So, yeah, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is great.
No, that's why I post for the podcast. That's why I post pictures. Like after we're done talking, I'll post a little something just for garner some interest in the episode, and that's why I try to always post smiles.
Yeah, people are finding the book, and that's the thing I wanted to. I had a final thought, which was Janine talking. It's 8 a.m. here, everyone, and I was at Monster Palooza till 3 last night. 3 in the morning.
Holy smokes.
And then I had a 45-minute drive home from Pasadena to Orange County. So I'm if I'm not making sense, that's why. But Janine said, you know, the whole concept of being, you know, that positive critique, the positive criticism it's a lost art form. You know, everyone is so negative. Everyone just wants to go online and have the funniest review about what a piece of shit your thing is. And like that, you know, what's the point of that? Who's that helping? Who's that uplifting? And if something isn't to your liking, you know, don't tell me what an enormous steaming turd in a bag of raccoon rancid meat. I don't know whatever people, you know, try to be more and more clever to build on their insults now. Like this whole game of trying to make the funniest, wittiest devastating, comment about what someone is spending their time doing. It's a stupid game we're all playing right now. I don't know why that's a thing that's happening. But what Janine said about, providing that criticism about, that enhances it, that uplifts it, that this is awesome, but I think it would be more awesome if not, this is shit, change it, like it's you're saying the same thing. It's just how you say it. And I think, that's what I want to promote is being a more being, even if you don't like something, turn it into a positive thing. Like it wasn't for me, but I can see how people would like it. Like it's not that hard, to not be a dick. It's really not.
Hard agree. And you beat me to the punch. I was going to ask what your final thoughts are. So
good final thought too.
Hell yeah. Janine, what are your final thoughts?
I know a lot of people will probably kind of look and see that, like, oh, how did she do that? And I have had comments like that as well, sort of people that have perhaps been doing movie critiques for 20 odd years and would probably have loved a gig like this. And then they kind of look at me and think, how did she suddenly creep into this and manage to get that? But it was through hard work and, and just like constant talking to people, finding the right angle for things and stuff like that. And so my final thought would be, if you have a dream, if there's something that you really, really want to do, don't listen to the people that are kind of going to be negative. Just go for it. Because the worst thing that can happen is it doesn't happen. And then you haven't lost anything, and maybe nobody even needs to know that you tried it. But if it does happen, then you could be in the same situation that I'm in right now. And it's just an amazing, I still daily kind of pinch myself and think, I can't believe I've done that.
As the old cliche says, you miss 100% of the shots you never take.
Yeah, exactly.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, and I'll give my final thought, and then you, Brennan, please. Thank you as always, Janine, for coming on. Mark, thank you for joining us. It's really cool hearing from. We love having publishers on. The fact that
Thanks
you're
for
right.
having me. This was a blast.
Yeah, we'd like to have you on too eventually for a solo thing. So that'd be cool because obviously we wanted to focus on Janine and sausages. So it'd be cool to focus on your thing too eventually. And Brennan, thank you for being a part of this as always, man. And listeners, we appreciate you spending your time with us. So Brennan, what are your final thoughts, sir?
Oh, gee, I thought you were going to skip me there. It sounded like
no, psych.
we appreciate the hell out of both of your times. Janine, obviously always a pleasure to have John Landis's best friend on here. And Mark, we appreciate you pulling, what amounts to an all-nighter and then still, coming to join us and still somehow being more Patrick. Good work.
Again, thank you for having me. This was awesome, and you guys are awesome, and thanks for wanting to talk about the book. The book's awesome too.
Yeah, definitely get a copy of Sausages. It's a really excellent book. It's a big bastard of a book full of everything you would ever want to know about this movie.
Gorgeous cover art.
And you can even learn about the fake Anne Fleming, which we never talked about, which now you have to read the book to find out.
Cliffhanger.
Next episode is 153. That's with Paul Tremblay. And as always, you have made choices.
Guys.
Yeah. And then following that is the infamous Edward Lee, who you cannot follow anywhere either because he doesn't social media. It's not for him. I don't blame him. But listeners, you have many choices in podcasts. Thank you for picking us.